Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. Each time we come before you in this way, I hope you understand the love, the benevolence, the beauty. As we sit at your feet and give you the wisdom that is here. This planet is changing greatly. You may be aware of it. Some of you are seeing things that are fearful or appear fearful because of the shift, of the change, not understanding that some of that change may be that which will upset the normal. And it's the normal, perhaps, that is not going to return. A normal of low consciousness that is starting to move away from humanity as you know it. This is the first of the month channel. That is to say, the first one of the month. All 4 of these channels will be available and are available for free. And so I then am free to give you a 4-piece channel, and I do it yet again. Part 1 of a subject. And this subject truly is the elephant under the table, as some of you would say. Those of you who are watching this program, who have tuned into this program because you want to watch it, have something all in common, various degrees of something in common, and that is you're starting to ask questions. And the questions you are asking is, have I missed something? Is there something perhaps bigger than I was told? Specifically, when it comes to that which is God, the creative source, spirituality, the energy on the planet, that some are saying is moving to a place it never was before, and they'd be right. The elephant under the table is that you're different. I'm going to call it consciousness shift. Some have called it awakening. I will say that it is humans' new frontier. Not just that which is awakening, but a perception shift of the planet that is gradually starting to happen. And it refers not just to spiritual things. It actually relates to the way you think. Human consciousness is starting to vibrate higher. And the first thing that takes place, dear ones, the first thing is those who start to be more aware of what they were not aware of before. Let's call it, instead of an awakening, let's call it a greater awareness. So that is the new frontier. Greater awareness, specifically about that which is spirit, about your own spirituality. And that's why you're here. It's the elephant under the table because it has changed your life. Sometimes it has made it more difficult in your life. Some of you have lost friends and family members because of it. So we're going to discuss it. The attributes, then, of this awareness shift. That's the subject. The first of these 4 is simply going to be looking around. I have given many parables, many examples, many metaphors of what some of you have experienced that actually got you in trouble. And I would say in trouble, that is to say, when you go against the norm, there are those who say, how could you? You were trained in this, you learned this, this is your staple, this is the way it works, and you have varied from that. Therefore, we're not going to be with you anymore. Perhaps that's why you're here listening to a program like this. You're among friends and good company. When I first started with my partner and started channeling on this planet, one of the first parables I gave was about a man named Woe. I told you he wasn't really a man or a woman. He was a woe man, but we call him a man. We call him a he because it's easy. And it had to do with a disturbance in the corner. We called it woe in the room of lesson. And the disturbance in the corner is a metaphor for him being in a room. And the room was his life. But there was a corner that always vibrated a little strangely. And those who were in the room with him said, yes, this is life. There'll always be things that you can look at or not look at. And there'll always be odd things. Don't look at it because it'll capture you. Or it's not good for you. And in this parable, Woe eventually looked, and it was like a door that he cracked open, and there was light there. There was other things there he didn't understand, and it changed his life. It was benevolent. It was loving. That was the first time we gave that kind of a parable, indicating that if you want to look, you might find a greater truth than you've been told. We gave a parable which became a book, The Journey Home. And in that, there was an average man, Michael Thomas, who had a near-death experience, and he came back with instructions from an angel. The angel told him to move into his city until he came to a park and sit there and wait, and he did. And finally, he thought he saw something in the hedge, like an opening or perhaps an anomaly. And he went to the hedge and he saw that it was indeed an opening, a doorway, if you want to say that. And then he had a decision. He said, am I imagining it or not? Has somebody made this happen to me or not? Am I being tricked or not? And he tried to unsee that, and he couldn't. Every time he looked at the hedge, he saw the doorway, every single time. Eventually, dear ones, he went through that and the adventure began. And he learned about things which were bigger than he was told. But the point is this, that when you start looking and something occurs, you cannot then delete that. Your conscious, your brain captures something critical, an opening perhaps, an awareness perhaps. Some have called it even an awakenings of what is it? And you're not frightened of it because you know that what it is that you have seen or felt is okay. It's safe, and you would like to know more about it. There are so many who have called these channelings a trick, that somehow you are brainwashed and you're tricked into something, and then you're captured forever. Dear ones, what if you went from darkness to light and you like the light better? Is that a trick? I'll tell you something that you should hear and you should need to know perhaps, and that is that all of you have the ability to look. And that if you choose to look, dear ones, that's like an outstretched hand to all of us that say, look at that. He's looking, she's looking. Let's give them something to see. That's what happened to my partner. That's what happened to many of you. You saw a greater truth. You went to look further at it, and it became that which is now your life because it saved some of you. We know who's watching. It became something that has extended your life. We know who's watching. What if God is bigger than you were told? What if God is not even representative of that word itself? A word that sometimes means anger and judgment and dysfunction like the Greeks had. That creative source which made you is provable all over the world. If you don't believe in that which is God, what if you erase the whole idea of a Father in the sky, instead have a benevolent source that you are part of, that has a grander scheme than anything anyone has told you? Let me close with this until the next section. There are physicians around this planet who are very, very good at something, and that is saving lives. And they spend their time often in the operating rooms emergency cases mostly, those who are dying from accidents mostly, trying to save their lives and bring them back because it's not time yet in our way of thinking and your way of thinking, perhaps. They come in and there's been an accident and their heart stops. And for whatever reason it is, and it can be a multitude of reasons and so many accidents, they're resuscitated then. And that physician is good at this, at saving people and bringing them back, and they've seen it over and over and over, where someone would be clinically dead for a number, perhaps, of moments or minutes or whatever. Over and over, you've seen this, you know this. And the thing that they will tell you, over and over, ask them. Some of them have written books on it, is this. A person comes back from that near-death experience, and the first thing they want to know when they recover and look at the doctor is this: why did you bring me back? You see, they saw something. The door started to open, and the light shone, and they felt the love and the benevolence. They felt safe and beautiful. Oh, my. Can you imagine such a thing? Even though the family was back there on the planet and all that, and all they wanted to do was stay. And it wasn't a trick of the mind, as some biologists will tell you. That's real. And then they come back into a planet where they have to work with consciousnesses, lows and highs and all this, and they're disappointed. So many. And then they philosophize about it, and some become authors and teachers and healers themselves, and often the near-death experience has opened them to this. They saw the truth, and they want to show it to you without you having to go through what they did. And that's why you sit and listen to them. And we've had them. So many times we, meaning that which is the channel we've had them to give to you, we've had them present on programs like this. We've tried to show you there is more. There is an awareness starting to happen, and you can't unsee it, dear ones. And in the next section, when we come back, when we channel next week, we will continue. And the continuation will be what happens when you see the truth in all of its glory, and no one else does. I think it matches so many of those right now who are listening. Are you interested? This is you. This is about the awakening awareness process on the planet. Not just you, but so many around you. I'll be back. And so it is.
And just allow a few more minutes to bathe in those beautiful energies set by Kryon. And gently bring your awareness back into your body. Bring your awareness back into the room. And I invite you to be fully present in this moment, because Lee and I are so excited for our next guest to be joining us. Alberto Villoldo is our next guest. And Alberto, are you there?
I'm here, Monika. Good to be with you and Lee.
Wonderful. Well, let's tell everyone about Alberto.
Yeah, I don't want to chat much more. I just want to get right into this. And this is just a giant of a guy, and I mean by that, the consciousness is very high, and I've been looking forward to not only meeting him here, but also to having him on the show. Medical anthropologist Alberto Villoldo has studied the shamanic healing practice of the Amazon and the Andes for more than 25 years. He's the founder of the Four Winds Society, which trains modern shamans in the practice of energy medicine. He directs the Center for Energy Medicine in Chile, where he investigates and practices the neuroscience of enlightenment.
Now, in his mid-20s, Alberto was the youngest clinical professor at San Francisco State University. I mean, Lee, a professor.
In the mid-20s, yeah.
In his mid-20s.
Right.
My professors were not in their mid-20s
no, mine
when I was at university. Anyway, he directed the Biological Self-Regulation Lab to investigate how energy medicine, it changes the chemistry of the brain. And he had heard stories about people in remote parts of the Amazon who claimed to know such things. Recognising that this investigation would not be a part-time pursuit or even a brief sabbatical, Alberto resigned his post at the university and traded his lab coat for his hiking boots and a ticket to the rainforest, a man after my own heart.
Sounds like you.
Yes.
Scattered throughout the remnants of the ancient Inca Empire were a number of sages or earth keepers who practiced the ancient healing methods. Alberto visited countless villages, met with scores of medicine men and women. For more than 10 years, he trained with the jungle shamans. Along the way, he discovered that his journey had been guided by his personal desire to become whole. He learned to transform old pain, grief, anger, and shame into sources of strength and compassion. Alberto, you are in the right place at the right time for our audience. Thank you so much, my friend, for being here. I just want to turn this over to you and have you do whatever you'd like to for these next moments.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you so much, Monika, for having me here. And let me tell you a little bit about how I got to the Amazon, because I was at San Francisco State University and I had my own lab. And we were trying to see if we could create psychosomatic health. We knew we could create psychosomatic disease, but could you create psychosomatic health? And my lab was in the brain section in biology department. So I was surrounded by 200 brains in formaldehyde. And we were looking at the brain. What is the role does the brain part play in creating health? And I realized that I could not find that out in the laboratory, and particularly with Western science that had to kill it before you could study it, that we were slicing and dicing the brain and staining it and looking at pathways. And so I shut down my lab. I got a research grant, actually, from big pharma, big Swiss pharma. They wanted to discover the next breakthrough cancer cure or dementia cure, or heart disease cure. And the Amazon is nature's pharmacy. And as a medical anthropologist, I had the credentials for doing that. So I went into the Amazon, into backwater villages that had never seen a light-skinned person before. In fact, the kids would come running to me and they'd kind of rub my hands and arms to see if the white dirt would rub off. And after many, many months in the Amazon, I met my sponsors and I came back empty-handed. There was no herbs, no plants, and because these people had no heart disease, they had no Alzheimer's, they had no dementia, they had no cancer. These are the illnesses of the West. This is what we have created in Western society and civilization. But they knew how to prevent these conditions. And that really fascinated me, because today we don't know how to treat cancer or heart disease or cancer. We cut it, burn it, or kill it. It doesn't work. Alzheimer's, we spent over $1 billion on research to try to cure Alzheimer's, and the statistics are terrible. If you live to be 85 years old, and we will, all of us watching this will, you have a 50% risk of having diagnosable Alzheimer's. This doesn't mean forgetting where you left your car keys. It means forgetting your children's names. This is terrifying. But these Amazonian shamans knew how to prevent it. they practiced prevention, and they did that by working with the human energy field, with the aura, what we call the aura, but which is in reality an information field that surrounds the physical body and organizes the physical body in the same way that a magnet organizes iron filings on a piece of glass. And in the West, we're fascinated with cutting the body and moving the pieces around, whereas the shamans were interested in clearing the imprints for disease from the energy field. And how I first learned about it was actually not in the Amazon, but in Haiti. Because the foundation that was sponsoring my research called me up and they said, Alberto, we're doing a study on voodoo in Haiti. And we need an anthropologist, a junior anthropologist. The other one got sick, and we're almost done with the study. And I said, I don't know anything about Haiti or about voodoo. My expertise is the Amazon. And they said, yes, we know. We're reviewing your grant proposal this very moment. And I said, when do you need me in Haiti? The following week, I was in Port-au-Prince in Haiti, where there was a lot of voodoo. And voodoo is actually an ancient healing practice from Africa, but that you can use to harm as well as to heal. In fact, all healing practices can be used, prayer can be used to kill someone or to heal someone. The difference, of course, is only the ethics and the intent of the practitioner. So I remember talking to this old voodoo priest, and I said, how do you hurt someone? How do you go and you punch them in the head? He said, nah, when we need to retaliate against someone, what we do is we take our rattle and we call on their spirit to come, and we look at their spirit, we look at their energy field, and we find out where that gray areas in the field are. And we go, maybe this is heart disease that runs in the family. And we put a little bit of energy into that imprint, and it wakes up. And it's like double clicking on a program in your computer. It takes over your screen. And 2 weeks later, that person will have heart disease. Or if you have breast cancer running in the family, they'll develop breast cancer. You'll activate the dormant deceased genes that we inherited from our family. And I go, wow, that is really nasty. And what about healing? How do you heal someone? And they said, it's the same way. We call on their spirit, we look at their field, and we find the stale chi, the stale energy. And we pull that energy out. We clear it from the blueprint. This is my language now. We clear it from the blueprint before it has to be processed through the body. And I go, wow, how elegant, how absolutely elegant. So here, these men and women that we consider primitive in Haiti and around the world, in sub-Saharan Africa, in the Himalayas, the Native Americans, they were working with a quantum field, what we call in physics the quantum field. They were interacting with it directly and upgrading the information that's in the blueprint of the body. And when you upgrade the blueprint, the body is upgraded. So they practice healing, not by healing disease. In fact, for the shamans, diseases do not exist. Sick people exist, but illnesses do not exist. And the practice of healing consists of creating the conditions for health. Create the conditions for health, and disease goes away. You don't need to treat illness, which is what we do in the West. In the West, in America, and Europe, we don't have a healthcare system. We have a disease care system, and we treat illnesses. Shamans don't do that. They create the physical conditions for health, your nutrition, your diet, the supplements, the nutrients that you're missing. Depleted soils is a big problem today in the world. Emotional health, you have to clear the imprints for toxic emotions that we have in our field. That person that you haven't forgiven for 20 years, that's a toxic imprint in the energy field. That if you have a weakness, a genetic weakness, will manifest as an illness that runs in your family that we consider hereditary. In fact, the shamans consider toxic emotions, trauma, toxic emotions as the source of all physical maladies. You've got to heal the toxic emotions. You create the conditions for health spiritually. You've got to be on a spiritual path. It's essential. You've got to be in a sacred journey, not just to accumulate wealth or fame or fortune or heal your mommy or daddy issues. You've got to be in a sacred mission to bring a little more beauty to the planet, to be of service in some way. So this was the shamanic practice. And I said, that's so much healthier than what we do in the West, where we think that the illness is the problem. We treat the symptom. We don't treat the cause in the West. And whereas the shamans were treating the cause. And they were saying the cause is not only your diet, the cause is your energy field. It's your unhealed emotions. It's your early life trauma or what you bring with you from former lifetimes. And they knew not only how to describe it, they knew how to intervene directly to remove these toxic imprints. And they call this the illumination process. And this is what I teach my students today, is how do you illuminate your field, upgrade the quality of the energy field? How do you download version 2.0 of the human software? And you download it into the field that then goes about the process of healing the body as the first step to later growing a new body that ages differently and that heals differently and that dies differently and that perhaps doesn't even have to die. And this is occurring at a really fascinating time in history when the indigenous peoples from around the world, the native keepers of the prophecies, the earth keepers, say that we have come to the end of humanity, of the humanity that we have known until today. And that today a new human is being born in the earth at this time of climate crisis, of ecological crisis. Now, the interesting thing about these times of crisis is that evolution changes. Mother Nature doesn't work with Newtonian laws of evolution any longer, which are the normal laws, the customary laws, which are slow, incremental change. Mother Nature now takes the foot off of the brake and steps on the accelerator, and evolution begins to follow the laws of quantum physics, quantum leaping, so that evolution no longer happens in between generations with our children and their children. It happens within generations. With you and I, that we can take a quantum leap to become that new human. Now, I was trained in science originally, so I always bring it back to the laboratory. And I understood that every 7 years, we grow a new body anyway, that your skin cells die and are replaced every 5 or 6 days, that the lining in your gut every 3 days, your lung lining is every week, even your bones every 7 years, you change every molecule in your body. You get an entirely new body. And you can either get a new body that's a slightly more wrinkled and older version of the one you have now, or you can become the new human at this time, this critical time in the history of humanity and of the world. But we have to upgrade the quality of the information in the field. And then we have to do ceremony. We have to do ceremony because we need to change our minds. Now, I understood from studying brain science that the ancient brain, our most primitive Neanderthal brain, that's called the limbic brain that we all have. That's the brain that lives in scarcity, it lives in anger, it lives in fear, it has PTSD, it doesn't get enough of anything, enough love or enough money or enough time. This ancient brain only changes through ceremony. And that's why we have ceremonies in every culture in the world. So you need to create a sacred ceremony for yourself. One that comes from you, not repeating what someone else has done. So So this brain needs a ceremony. We do a lot of fire ceremonies with candles, where you can blow into a stick or a piece of paper that which you are willing to let go of, and you put it in the fire. And that helps the brain to change so you can then change your mind. Otherwise, we're still stuck in the old paradigms and the old belief structures. We're not able to change them because they are operating actually as neural networks in this very ancient limbic brain that we all have. So this is a time of such amazing opportunity where we can bring together the ancient wisdom, the millenary wisdom of the shamans, the medicine men and women, and modern science, modern Western science. Modern science is descriptive, describes how things happen. The shamanic wisdom is participatory. It allows you to engage these processes. You don't only describe the quantum field, you're able to dance in it and change it and take on the creator role that we have to help to dream the world into being. So when I was in the Amazon, this old medicine woman comes to me and says, Alberto, we have to heal you. And I said, you have to heal me? Why? What's wrong with it? There's nothing wrong with me. She said, no, we have to heal your ignorance. And I go, what do you mean heal your ignorance? And it's Dr. Alberto, by the way.
Yes.
What do you mean heal my ignorance? She says, yeah, you have a lot of information, but very little wisdom. And then she went on to explain that information is knowing that water is H2O. Wisdom is being able to make it rain. Information is having a diagnosis. Wisdom is being able to heal. In our Western science, it's very descriptive, but it doesn't let us engage and interact with the forces of nature. It doesn't, for example, one of the laws of physics is called the law of entropy. And entropy is a law that says that everything is breaking down. Your house is breaking down, your car is breaking down, your relationship can be breaking down. You've got to be repairing it all the time. This is that law that says that you can go from a glass of milk in the glass, to milk on the floor, but you can't go backwards. You can't go back to milk in the glass. So the shaman said, yeah, you don't need to go to Harvard to understand this. You just need to have children, right? Everything is moving towards chaos. So the shaman said, yeah, we observed that, but the other side of that law, and they said this law is what we call jaguar, the jaguar principle, like this ancient jaguar that I have here. Jaguar is the chaotic, destructive force. But the other side of that law, that's also jaguar, is that life defies entropy. The physical universe is going to hell all the time, and we need to keep repairing it. But the biological world seeks complexity. You have cells that team up with other cells to create organs, that team up with other organs to create eagles. It's extraordinary. Life seeks complexity, and that's the life principle. And we call that jaguar also, the life-death principle. And the difference being that the shamans can go, mother, sister, jaguar, come to me. Come and bring a little bit of renewal and healing to this person that I'm helping. Or come and bring life to this person that's so ready to be reborn. And they can enlist this force of nature. And jaguar will show up. Whereas the physicists can go, second law of thermodynamics, come to me, because nothing's going to come. It's only descriptive, whereas the shamans could not describe it, but they could do it. And one time I was saying to an old medicine man that became my teacher for many years, I was explaining to him chaos theory from physics. And chaos theory is that theory that butterfly that flapped its wings in Beijing started a tropical storm in the Caribbean. And which is a law that explains how we're all interconnected, chaos theory. And the old man turns to me and he says, "Show me." And I go, "What do you mean show you? This is physics, quantum physics." He says, "No, no, if you can talk about it, it's because you can do it, right?" I had a brand new PhD. And he said, "Come on, flap your little doctor wings and heal somebody in India." And I said, "I can't do that." He said, "I can." Because these are feminine traditions. They're earth-based traditions. They're traditions of wisdom, not of information, not accumulating facts, but accumulating power so you can be of service and you can co-create. And this becomes the central tenet of the shamanic traditions, dreaming the world into being, co-creation. And it comes from our story of creation itself. Because in the West, we were kicked out of the Garden of Paradise, the Garden of Eden. And we're the only people in the planet ever to have been kicked out of the garden. Nobody else was kicked out of the garden. The Aborigines, the Native Americans, they were given the garden to be the stewards and the caretakers of the garden, the earth keepers. Whereas the shamanic mythology says, I've created, what Great Spirit said on the seventh day, I've created the whales and the eagles and the butterflies. Aren't they beautiful? And now you finish it. Creation is not complete. For us in the West, on the seventh day, all that was left was the naming of the plants and the animals. For the shamanic societies, the Aboriginal societies, creation is not complete. Our task is to complete creation. It's what the shamans call dreaming your world into being, to co-create with spirit. And this is the difference between the shamanic traditions and the religious traditions. Because religion is about the creator, whereas for the shamans, it's about creation and creating. It's not making offerings to appease the creator or asking for this or forgiveness from. No, it's about knowing that spirit is within you. You're not separate from. And our task is to create and become stewards of the creation, become earth keepers. And to me, this is an ancient wisdom that is becoming so relevant today, so important.
Alberto,
in the world that we're living in.
I'm absolutely riveted because this is what we teach. And I'm just listening and going, yes, yes, yes. I want to take notes, all these things. I don't want to run out of time. I know you have, did you want to do a little ceremony or something here to
Yeah, absolutely. I was hoping that we could do that we have time for that.
We do. We have 5 minutes left or maybe a little more, and we can do that, and then that we can end with that, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we can become earth keepers, we have to awaken the higher order neural networks in the brain. And we cannot do that if our brain is on fight or flight. If we are stressed out or we're fearful, we need to be able to practice stillness. This is what meditation is about, to reset that fight or flight system so that our world can become safe. And we're now no longer looking suspiciously at the world, but we can then step up to the higher order neural networks in the brain where we can become co-creators. So I'd like to take us through a meditation where we can begin to reset the fear system, the fight or flight system that produces the stress hormones in the brain. So it's a drumming meditation, and I'm going to ask you to inhale to a count of 4 and exhale to a count of 6. Inhaling to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, holding to 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, exhaling to 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, inhaling to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, holding to 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Exhaling to 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhaling to 4. Holding to 6. Exhaling to 6. Inhaling to 4. 3, 4. Holding to 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And exhaling to 6. Inhaling to 4. Holding to 6. Exhaling to 6. Inhaling to 4. Holding to 6. Exhaling to 6. Inhaling to 4. Holding to 6. Exhaling to 6. Inhaling to 4. Holding to 6 softly. Exhaling to 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhaling to 4. Holding to 6. Exhaling to 6. And deep breath. And exhale. Normally, we breathe between 12 and 15 times a minute. This is the stressful breath that creates psychosomatic disease. Now we were breathing 3 times a minute. And eventually you can inhale to 4, hold to 6, exhale to 6, and hold empty to 6. And then you'll be breathing twice a minute. And your whole system will slow down, your world will slow down, and you'll be able to dream your world into being with beauty and with grace. Thank you so much, Lee and Monika.
Awesome.
That was incredible. Thank you for being part of our dreaming into being. If you enjoyed Alberto, please visit the4wins.com. That's the website, the4wins.com. You will find loads of information on that website. Newsletters, free things, courses you can sign up for, and how blessed were we, Lee, to be able to have that.
It's really good.
Deepest love and thanks to you, Alberto.
I don't want to leave.
Thank you. Thank you for the beautiful work you do and blessings.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so now we are going to take a 10-minute break, and then we'll see you for the Circle of 12. Well, hello and welcome back. Oh my goodness, wasn't Alberto wonderful?
I say this about so many of our guests, but yes, he was awesome. And I mentioned, I think when he was done, that I was riveted. Truly, you might have noticed that we really didn't have any questions for him. We didn't interrupt him, except the very, very end. And that is when it just gets your attention, because almost everything he was saying is truly so wise and so accurate for today.
Absolutely. So beautiful. And I hope you're still carrying that feeling from his drumming. And let's continue that as we prepare for the Circle of 12. Again, I would like us to begin by saying some statements of intent. I will say each intent 3 times, and you are invited to say them silently or aloud. I release all expectations, and I am willing to be open to the energy of compassion in my life. I release all expectations, and I am willing to be open to the energy of compassion in my life. I release all expectations, and I am willing to be open to the energy of compassion in my life. I accept the perfect love of God. I accept the perfect love of God. I accept the perfect love of God. And I give permission to experience the grandness of my soul. I give permission to experience the grandness of my soul. I give permission to experience the grandness of my soul. I am ready.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon. Come a little closer. Come a little closer is the new statement that I am making, and I have made. It's a statement that is one of invitation. And the closer is a metaphor for awareness, truly. If you can come closer to that which is on the other side of that veil, which has always separated you from what you think is reality and that which is perhaps divine, if you can come closer to that, you start to have things shown to you. You have an awareness, perhaps, that you hadn't had before. You're in a culture, almost all of you who would listen to this, where you are born with information being given to you by your families, by those adults around you, by your peers. It's the perception of how they feel Earth works. And it's not just that which is spiritual. It's that perhaps which is the way things work medically, or the way they work perceptionally, how to act, what to say, what to do when you have certain situations presented to you. And you learn them from birth, dear ones. And so by the time you are a young adult, you have a template that is before you. And that template, self-made by your culture, by those around you, by humans, for your culture, is often repeated. A template is something that is created so that the template becomes that which you are. That's why they call it a template. And so it's the template you would use in 5 years or in 10 years. It's always the template. And then there are some of you who take the template away. And when you do, you start asking the questions. In our channel, just a little while ago, I started talking to you about these perceptions, about the new frontier, which is a new human awareness. Could it be that the veil is lifting? Now that is a metaphor itself. And if you've just tuned into this and you're listening and say, well, what is the veil and what does that mean? The veil has always represented that which is beyond what you know, and especially spiritually. The veil would be that which is you, and the other side of the veil often is which is God. That's what you're taught. And when you go into those institutions, if you wish to call it that, and you sit and you listen, and you listen to those who would give you information from God, some of them will tell you about the veil. And they will say that that veil then separates you so completely, you'll never go there. And so you have to then compete with others to listen for this or that, or do certain things, or climb a number of stairs in order to peek over the veil, or peek through the veil, or you know what I'm saying, all of that. That's the template. But there are so many that have said, what if that information is as good as it got in an older consciousness, in an older energy of this planet? As good as it got because it still talks about a loving God. But that's all they had. And if you take a look at the traditions and the information, it's not just hundreds of years old, it's thousands of years old. It talks about a God on the other side of a veil or a wall that you'll never talk to and never get to. And that God is often a punishing God. Not anywhere close to that which we teach. And then there is the question, what if in a newer consciousness awareness time, what if in a time that allows for that veil to become thinner and lift a little, what if you can glimpse a truer, more accurate God perception, if you wish? The word itself, we said, God, is a holdover from an older idea, an older perception of a Father in the sky who controls things, looks at you, knows what you're doing, keeps track of your bad things and your good things, and then tallies it up when you die. Of course, so that you'll know how much to be punished. That is an old concept of what a God is in an older energy, and it emulates so accurately humanism. So God is human, just bigger and more powerful. What if, oh, we were so different. And that's the idea here, right now. This whole awakening, if you want to say, of consciousness that is slowly happening on the planet is in so many layers. It's not just spiritual, dear ones. It's how to treat each other. Even if you're not one who would ever become spiritual, you'd still be in on the lifting of this veil, the thinness of it, because the attributes of that creative source, the beautiful, benevolent, loving creative source, the attributes of that filters in to the field, into the humanity. And people who would never even go to church are starting to become kinder to each other or more understanding to one another. You see how this works? So we're not talking about a belief system. We're not talking about another way of thinking, spiritual, another thing to join. We are talking about an overall awakening, if you wish, perceptual increase, vibrational, anything you want to call it, which would mean an upgrade. An upgrade to consciousness, how you think about yourself. Consciousness, how you think about others, how you think about the earth, how you think about how you got here. How you think about what might work and what might not work in situations. Consciousness is increasing in its vibration. Kryon, what does that mean, it's increasing in its vibration? These are metaphors for a three-dimensional thinker who thinks that things that are higher are better, things that vibrate higher are better. It is a metaphor for thinking out of a lower energy into a new energy, consciousness increase, means you're starting to think more like that which is from the creative source, that which is spirit, that is what you call God. What if, dear ones, there is a grander truth than you were told, and it's time for it to be revealed? The planet really is truly ready for a different perception of that which is the source that created all things. You had a speaker, a guest today, right before the break, who studied the indigenous of the planet, who spent time with them. In some of the oldest traditions on the planet, he was driven, truly, as a scientist, to see how it worked for them. And what he discovered was this: the things that the Western world is starting to become aware of have always been there. Now, this tells you something. Perhaps the way of things always existed in a greater way. So it's not about discovering something new about God, it's about returning to what was already known. What if the ancient ways you find are not that simple? What if they are every bit as complex as you would think a new way would be, with layers and layers of that which is energy and understanding? But what if it wasn't filled with rules? What if you discover that there is no veil, not as you thought there was? Honestly, what if there is no veil? That would mean that you are part of what is on the other side of the veil. And the invitation then is not to then go beyond that. The invitation is to realize that. So it becomes self-realization, awareness, a perception that everything is connected, instead of everything being separated and you have to climb a certain stair in order to go to a certain place to meet that which is divine. What if the indigenous always had a grander truth? And that is what is now being refined, is now being seen, not just by the shamans, but by every woman and man who's listening to this program, if they wish. The question is there: what if things were bigger than any of you were told? What if that which you call God is not God at all, but part of a grandness that you are included in, instead of a separate thing, a separate entity? That is the bigger truth. Come with me. While we speak about going to the unknown from the known, and there is the bridge, and there it is again. Go to the middle of that bridge with me. Those of you who wish to will see beyond that mist that often is there, and those who are not sure will see a mist. That is a metaphor. Can you see beyond your own reality? Are you willing to understand there are things you don't know? Are you afraid of what you don't know? What have you been told? Every single one of these questions is answerable differently by your culture, by your upbringing, by what you were told. Regardless, we stand in the middle of the bridge, and I want you to go across with me. Right now, come closer. Come closer, please. Take my hand. Take everyone else's hand, and let's go. You go into an energy that for some is frightening. because you haven't been there before. And for some, you've waited all week for it because this is where you want to go. But the more times you go to this energy, the more you realize it's a safe place, because it is the essence of you. Have you realized how old this place is? It's not new. You have crossed the bridge into an ancient part of you. And in there's everything. There is creation, there is past lives, there's who you were, who you will potentially be, where there is no beginning and there is no end, where all things seem to be in a circle of 12. And we've explained this before. Understanding, benevolence, compassion, no judgment is there. You might just bask in that energy for a moment before we go into the theater. Through a doorway or a portal, which is only a metaphor of going from one place to another for you, you move into this place, this theater in the round that we always go to. The theater in the round is sometimes large, sometimes small. It's always a sunken theater with an amphitheater kind of seating around it. You have to go down into the audience in order to get onto the stage. That is what it always looks like. There is a chair on the stage or not, depending upon what we are doing today. Today there is a chair. The chair is for you. The chair is metaphoric. It's always symbolic. Everything is, dear ones. And if you want to analyze it, we say to you, the chair is a comfortable place, a safe place where you can watch or you teach in the chair. It's not imposing where you stand in front of an audience and then have to deliver something. It's a chair. And I want you to go there and sit there if you choose in this exercise. People say, I'm having a hard time visualizing. And I say, are you having a hard time remembering what it's like to sit in a chair? And probably not. So simplify all of it, dear ones. Sit in the chair. Only this time, when you open your eyes, there is indeed a very large audience in front of you. It's all around you. Now there's a symbol of the circle that is all around you as well. There is no beginning or end of that circle. In this metaphoric, symbolic place, everyone can see your face, even in the circle in the round, because this is not a linear circle. Some have asked, well, describe the circle. Kryon, give us something a scientist would understand about the beauty of the circle of 12 you always talk about and the numbers you always talk. Okay, I'll tell you what the circle is for the first time. It's a toroid. Now, I hope that satisfies a little more of those who are scientific, because you'll go, oh my. Study the attributes of a toroid. That attribute, by the way, of a toroid, someday will give you some of the energy that you're missing today. You are sitting in a magnificent place, dear ones. And here's what's going to happen. We've gone here before, and this is similar. But a light will be shown individually on groups. We've done that before. All of those in the audience are at least 800 years old. All of them in the audience are indigenous for their territory in their area, all of them. And they see you. And they want to talk to you in groups. They want to stand and give you the summary of what they believe. And they're doing this for a reason, because you are seen as the link to the future wisdom of the planet. Whereas there are very few who would go that far back to listen to those who have lived then. The new human is the link to the future, because this begins the study of what the shamans knew about the other side of the veil, about the light at the end of this tunnel that some of you have created, saying that life ends at the end, and it does not. And they believe in so many of the things today you call New Age, which is not. It's old age, past lives, energies, healing, miracles. Where energy is king and consciousness is all, where the planet is connected to everyone and everything and is a partner in your life. One by one, this group is going to stand, speak as one, and one voice and one consciousness to you as you listen. And they will say, here's what we believe. And we'll tell you what we have been training you in now for 31 years. They'll tell you how connected you are to all things. They'll tell you that God is love and benevolence and represents nature and is not a judging God, that you are part of everything. They won't refer to it as God, they'll call it spirit, so many of them, meaning consciousness, and you are in it, one by one. And before they ever talk to you, they will give a little ceremony that welcomes you into their fold, and they will see you as a link, and that's why you're sitting there. Can you feel it now? The honor that the indigenous of the past have for you today, because you're listening, finally, to the truth that is so much bigger than anything your culture has ever given you. I want you to stay there, one by one, and watch these as they go around, calling you by name, saying thank you for being here, thank you for listening, thank you for understanding. You're one of us. Dear ones, this is the awareness frontier of the planet starting to occur, one at a time, so often by those who would listen to a program like this. I am Kryon, in love with humanity. Stay and be honored, O link that you are. Warrior of light, we call you, unafraid. Stay. And so it is.